look at it as an opportunity to go and invest money in the exchange. The other thing that you will find interchangeably used as a term on the stock exchange is that you've got it, the shares being called stocks at sometimes it's called EPT, one and the same thing. It's just that how clever you want to look when you're using difficult words. So I'll try to make it very basic in terms of using human language and not using stock exchange language. Are you fine with that, or do you want me to revert to the stock exchange language? No, okay. I won't do any acronyms, but I'll throw in a bit so that I look clever also. Now, a brief history on the JSE. I think it is important to understand why this organization came to be. So there was an interesting discovery in the Witwatersrand, and there was the discovery of gold in this area. You had the discovery of diamonds in Kimberley and in other places where there were mineral deposits in the ground. Now, what is important is to understand that you had people who were ready to pick the pick and shovel and actually did, and then the others were actually saying, we've got money, but we can fund you, but you must give me more in terms of the return on the money that you invested. So in that you had this collaborative exchange or a cooperation where those who had money could meet those who had the expertise to go and dig for the gold. So that's when this organization started, as a cooperation with those who had money and those who actually wanted to do the work. And in that space, you had a history that started going on, and in 1887, a gentleman by the name of Benjamin Woolen, I haven't met him, I was not born then, shows you my age, and in that, he actually spearheaded this organization from the beginning in terms of what it can actually grow to be. It was owned by those who had money, who were also called the members of this corporation. So you will see another term that is used, and it's not a membership of a club, but it is actually the brokers that actually access the market. They are called members. You find that in South Africa and in most of the other developing countries, where naturally stock exchanges evolved from that kind of cooperation, where the members actually ran the stock exchange. Now, the one thing that is interesting, and you might have seen it in the movies, is that you see a lot of people shouting around and the other ones writing on boards and stuff like that, and you think you're going to find that in Sanchez. Unfortunately, we are too advanced. We don't have people shouting around. No, we've got computers doing that. So all you do in the buying and selling of shares, there is no need of people on the ground actually shouting around, buy, sell, this is the price, but you actually have people sitting in the comfort of their offices in Rosebank, in London, and actually punching in their orders in and out on that. And I think about 21 years ago, we actually decommissioned the floor in terms of people shouting on the ground. So we actually went electronic, as advanced as we are. And in that also, we actually moved to Santen because we didn't need that spooky looking hall in actually the old Johannesburg building, which is in town. So we moved to Santen, where there is actually true connectivity and the electricity is stable, and we can also be jam-packed in the traffic here. But still, the market works in this place. And you've got the connectivity right now with technology, with people who can actually trade from outside the country at the same time with people that are in the country. So now what we did in 2014 is that we refreshed our branding to that Swanky brand, and we became relevant. We wanted to become as friendly to the consumers as possible and move away from the X which says don't come close to me, and for some might conceive it as the Orlando Pirates gesture, but we're not in that space anymore. We've got, I think, by far the most innovative look in the world if you compare us to the stock exchange that we pride ourselves on. So with that boring stuff, let's go now to the interesting stuff. Now this is really, and I have to step down so that I can see this because it's really exciting. So what you've got is that by far our exchange is competing in a global world. We're not only just in South Africa. And what we've seen is that on the top 20 companies that we've got listed in the exchange is that we're finding a lot of players that are not only playing in South Africa. We're finding businesses that have gone global. They have listed, they have grown, and they have gone global. So in terms of that, you're finding them to be actually leaders in the industries that they are in, and actually you're finding them actually making waves in other countries. A good opportunity if you are an investor to actually look at some of these. And you see that you've got the likes of Mpho, and sorry, there was a transaction that happened when SAB Breweries, which was our pride of beer in South Africa, actually was bought over by Mpho. And you can see now market cap in terms of this company that you are looking at a lot of billions, about 2.5 billions in terms of where it is at. And also, we've got that lovely share, which is number 3, which is Naspers, the most expensive share on the exchange. It's just already close to 3,000 rand right now. And it is something that you wanted to invest in a long time ago when it was 10 cents, maybe. Yeah. And it is that way you have seen that with the growth of Naspers going also into the likes of China and operating there, there is also an opportunity to grow in a global market by investing locally in a company that you know. You've got global players like Glencore, Richmond, PHP Militant, Anglo-American, and our own first-rand Steinhoff is in there, Vodacom, and many, many more that are actually playing outside of this country that are actually showing some growth. So now what we're saying is these companies actually wanted capital to grow their operations. So what they have done is to list so that they can access that extra capital to either build breweries, to either grow their network in terms of the cell phone companies, and grow their operations in terms of Naspers for them to actually purchase a company like Tencent that is operating in China. And therefore you can actually get the growth that is happening in China through a locally listed stock. A great opportunity for our sport. Also, if you look at the number of companies that have been listed, what we call stock exchange split, I'll correct that, money raised on the exchange. It's called IPO. And with that, what we've seen is that with the IPOs, the companies that have come to the market, we have seen a jump in the 2007 where actually a lot more companies came into the market actually listing, which was almost about 70. So that was a great time. And then what happened was a very unfortunate time happened here in 2009 when you're not seeing companies coming into the market because it was the global crash of the stock exchanges where there was a global financial crisis. So if the world sneezes, we also catch the flu, and maybe even avian flu at some point. Now, going further is just to look at where does the JSE rank in the world in terms of how big the exchange is, in terms of number of listed companies, and also what we call liquidity. Liquidity just saying that how easy is it to actually buy and sell shares? Are they available when you want to buy? Are they available when you want to sell? So that makes it easier for us to actually rank it with the most exchanges that are big, like looking at that bubble which is very big, which is New York Stock Exchange. But what you see is that in this place, you don't find a lot of African exchanges. In fact, zero. It's only the JSE that is playing in that global arena. So in that, we are saying that the JSE is actually not just competing in Africa, but it is one significant player in terms of the world. So we do have those standards. We can operate at that high level in terms of access into a lot of companies, or if you are investing, a lot of companies that are operating in the market. And if you are looking at listing a company, a great opportunity in terms of capital raising on the JSE. The other statistics that we know, which I didn't include in the slides, is that we are by far the highly ranked stock exchange in the world in terms of growth. If we were to just invest in the entire market, in terms of all the shares, if you had the money, you would actually be getting more returns over time than if you invested in any other exchange in the world. So those are some of the facts. So now we started looking at Africa and we said, let us look at our neighbors, and we found ourselves to be oversized to actually be compared with some of them. There are some that essentially, Malawi, Uganda, they have been omitted from this slide because it would be not even a dot, it would just disappear into the slide. So in terms of looking for opportunities, we're finding a lot of African countries and opportunities for them actually looking at how do they invest in the JSE, because most of the companies that are already operating here also operate in their markets. So it is a great opportunity to actually fund organizations that can go into the whole of Africa. I'm not boasting, just putting the facts as they are. Yeah. we South Africa, yes. And also in terms of what we know is that the JSE is world renowned, and these are figures from coming from the World Federation of Exchange, and here we find that it is #1 in terms of financing through the local equity market. So this is saying that if you are listing and you want to raise capital in South Africa, you stand a better chance of actually raising that capital. You've got a lot of people who are saying that I've never invested in the stock exchange and they have a pension fund. You are investing in the stock exchange. It's just that you've got somebody managing the fund for you. But there is a lot of people that actually do not understand how the working of the stock exchange happens. But what we want to actually encourage people is that in addition to those investments that we've got, you can actually partake by actually start investing yourself, or even going to the space of actually trading actively on the stock market with a broker, for instance. We've got brokers who are there who can help those who are looking to open accounts. In terms of world ranking also, liquidity that I mentioned earlier, we are comparing ourselves in the world and we are not looking that bad. This is market cap. So we are above the top 20 exchanges in the world, not Africa. But we are playing in that space and we are well renowned and well recognized for it. And that is why you find that there are a whole lot of foreign banks that are operating in the country to actually access the growth that is sitting in the exchange. Liquidity in terms of that opportunity of actually buying and selling shares when they are available, we actually rank higher than even London Stock Exchange, Nasdaq, as well as, I was looking for the Australians. They've just made it a little bit 2 notches up, but we're going to beat them one day. I know there's this rivalry between the Springboks and the Aussies, so we can win also in this space. Now, let us look at some stories, and I'm just going to take these stories in terms of looking at what companies have listed, how much money they have raised on the exchange, what have they achieved in terms of the growth that they have got after listing on the exchange. Remember that I'm only doing this as an example. It's not that says that I do know the future. I am not a Sangoma, I'm not a prophet, but what I know is stuff that has happened. So I'm just going to give you a bit of history in terms of some of the stories that we think are worthy for you to understand in terms of what are those opportunities and how does it work. Now, the first company that we're looking at is Capitec. Who would have loved to invest on Capitec when they listed? A great story to tell. This is a bank that came into an environment where the big banks were actually operating. In terms of number of customers that they have, I do not have that, but all I know is that when they listed, the share price that was in 2012, the share price was 180, and as of today, actually, that was 2 days ago, it was at 891 rands. So if you put substantial amount of money to gain those shares, you would have grown your money pretty much 891 times. So that is something that you can look at it in terms of this is a great investment. But now looking at what the management of Capitec has done is that when they listed in 2012, they managed to raise 119 million rands to actually expand their business. Now the market cap, which is the share price multiplied by the number of shares that are on issue, is actually now sitting at 103 billion rands. So they actually, the worth of the company has grown substantially from what they initially raised from 119 million to 103 billion. So a great story to tell in terms of South African growth, and as well as looking at a company that came in with innovation that afforded a whole lot of people to actually invest, and actually has indicated that with being a good investment with the returns that are happening right now. Another one that I thought I should actually speak about, when they listed, they looked at 2 billion rands, now they're looking at 1.2 trillion. The share price, which I just said, is almost bordering to almost 3,000 rands, started at 21 rand, and now it's sitting at about 2,900. Just from 2014. So there is an opportunity in terms of how that company has actually grown in the market with the acquisitions that they have had, in terms of good businesses that they've got that have given them enough or good returns on it. And that's our number 3 company on the exchange. ShopRite, we buy from them. A whole lot of people have got these shops coming up. They also operate in Africa in a number of countries. It was listed in 1936, I was not there. And at listing it was about 17 rands, it's about 220 rands. So you can see that over time also there's ups and downs for some companies. Some have got a trajectory that just goes up. Some actually have got a very steady growth that happens over time. But thinking about they raised 784 million rands, and right now they're sitting at 132 billion rands in terms of their worth as a business. A great company that has listed, and one that most probably a lot of investors will say, I've got a share in it, because it's the story that I know. It's companies that I see on an everyday basis, and they have given me the growth that I identified. Kiro Holdings came in a times where nobody thought that actually education at that level can actually do much. They raised only 800,000 rands here, but that has actually helped them with reaching their vision of getting to about 40 schools in 2020. So they started in 1998, and then they just started in a church, and the listing actually is something that has put them on the map in terms of how they can grow their business. What is interesting here is a good story where we've got a junior board where we say it's actually with minimum requirements. It's called Altex. It's for smaller companies that actually want to go into the market, and it is actually easier to list in that space. So what they've done is that they listed there, and within a year they were able to move into the main board. That's where the big guns are. So there's a great opportunity where we say that there is actually potential, and the market actually accepts that in South Africa in terms of how companies can move from being that small or medium enterprise that is actually operating to actually moving into the big guns in terms of operating in the main board. Another great story to look at. Okay, here's another great story where we're looking at another great company that we looked at, also operating outside of South Africa in some properties that they've bought. But when they listed in 2012, they were actually able to move the properties that they own, which was 20, to about 80. So an exponential growth that they managed to get by buying other properties where they can manage those properties to actually make a return. The capital raised in 2012 was 979 million rands. A great company in terms of growth, a great company in terms of looking at property, where there's also opportunities instead of buying to let in terms of your property and you're still paying the loan on that and the charges on the loan. There is actually a story that can be told about buying listed property, where you actually don't have to pay back the loan, you don't have to pay back the interest on the loan, but you can, with the money that you've got, actually start owning that which is a property company. Who says that you cannot own a piece of the Mall of Africa or Sunset Convention Center? So I'm just looking at it in terms of what is available on the exchange, in terms of properties, in terms of telecommunications that is available for us to do. Now, if you are an investor and you're not looking to the story of actually investing, so there are some really interesting stories that we've looked at. Now, a number of assumptions now we made in terms of extrapolating these numbers is that we've looked at an investment of 10,000 rands, and with that investment, we simulate how the share that we have actually chosen could have just grown your money in terms of your worth, in terms of the money that you have invested. And with that, what we have done is that we have assumed that you bought and you held that share for some time. We also assume that you are holding those shares at the end of August 2017. With the calculation, we have stripped out the broker fees and other related fees in terms of buying that share, and also the dividends that you earn from the companies. And with the dividends, it's a fancy way of just saying that when the company makes profit, it starts sharing some of the money that it has made with you, because you are the shareholder, you are the Mumzana, you own that business. Well, many of you own that business, you just have a share. But they reward you for having given them that investment to actually run their operations. So now, let's look at some really interesting stories. Fine. So, last year, 2016, towards the end of 2016, which was in November, we had a business called Discount that we know. And that business actually came onto the market, they listed there. So now the 10,000 rands that you would have invested at that point would have started dipping a few days after the listing. That's no time to panic. Stay in, because we said you're going to hold it for longer. And in that, we see that at this point, you would have been sitting with 13,000 rands in a very short space of time, of just over 6 months. Now, here's another one. Famous brands, their food is lekker. And if you invested in 2007, when they listed, and we actually looked at the 10,000 rands that you invested, at this point in time, you would be sitting with 72,000 rands from chips, pizzas, and fish. Delta Property, another great story in terms of them expanding their business, but you must remember that with the expansion of their business, they've been buying more properties with them. So you're going to see a different result there. No time to panic, you can still stay on if you believe and you have all the fundamental information that suggests that the company will be growing at a later stage. There is that period where you know that they need to acquire so that they can gain more returns. Curo Holdings. Remember those few schools or one school that started in the church? Great place to start. And we're looking at that. If you invested your 10,000 rands when they listed in 2011, about 6 years ago, now you'd be sitting with about 96,000 rands in your account. Remember, we have stripped out the dividends on this, so it will be actually more than 96,000 rands. And then with adjustment of the fees that you pay, you'll still be in a good space. They own a lot of commercial property also, but if we're looking at it also, we are looking at from your 10,000 rands, we'll be sitting at just over 15,000 rands on that. Can you, I think this thing is good. Okay, that's 16,000 rands. Now, let us look at a comparison where we're looking at what an investor would have gained as well as what the company would have gained. Now looking at that, we're looking at side by side in terms of delta. Now market cap is the value of that company. So now we can see the value of the company has actually moved from just over 1 billion rand to just over 5 billion rands. So that is the company's worth in the long run, and your investment would have set there, and this is the slide that we have seen, which was also in red in terms of not actually making a lot of money from it, but actually losing a couple of cents. But you can see that the worth of the company is actually growing. Okay. This camp, also you can see the worth of the company growing. This camp, the worth of the company is growing just over 20 billion rands, and also the worth of your investment in terms of the share price has actually moved up slightly in the last 7 months or so. So there is also another great opportunity as an investor, great opportunity for those who listed the company, the owners of this camp. The last one that we look at, Kiro, same also. The worth of the company has just grown exponentially from just below a billion rand, way below a billion rand, and right now sitting at just about 50 billion rand. Also the share price moved from just below 1 rand to just over 40 rands 1 rand. So those are some of the growth factors that you can look at. And with that, having said that, just those examples, I would like to get into questions. No difficult questions as a brief. I'd like to get into questions. I know you've got lots of questions. If you are very shy to ask the questions right now, we do have the brokers who are available right now. We can actually take you through the process of actually getting involved or actually registering to actually participate on the market. Also, what we can do is that those people with the green t-shirts, you can speak to them about, I've got a great business that is already running and I would like to actually list. And we need to take your details so that we can assist you in making available those capital investments that are available in the country for you to actually list, grow, and lead in the industry that you operate in. I've got a question over there.
Good morning. I got 2 questions. What would be the process of making that initial investment on the companies? I know nothing about investments, so what would be the investment? What would be the process of getting involved there? And is the information on the companies that are currently trying to get listed easily accessible to students and young people all across the world?
Let me start with the second question first. Information on all companies that are listed on the stock exchange is public information. There's 2 places where you can get it, in fact, a whole lot of places. You can go into the money webs of this financial news. You can go into a broker and ask them that information. You can go into the JSE website where we do have the figures and also the graphs in terms of how those companies are doing. Now, in terms of the companies that are going to list on the exchange, unfortunately, that is not public knowledge as yet. Otherwise, it will be insider trading. So you would know this business is coming onto the market, and you prep yourself to actually get that information or buy that share before it goes in. But what happens is that the information becomes available to everybody at the same time in terms of this company will be listing. It is public knowledge available to students and everybody else. I hope I've answered your question on that. The second one, where do I start? I would encourage that you start by gathering more information by understanding how it works. And for that we do have modules that are running on our website, and you can actually access videos as well as material to read about it, to actually understand how the whole thing works. What we've seen is that people do not just look at a presentation like this and they think they know it all. This is just a thought starter, and it's for you to actually gather more hours of actually learning on that. Now, you can start there, or you can go directly to a stockbroker. That list of stockbrokers you can find on the JSE website, and you can also speak to some of the stockbrokers that are here. And with that FICA document, you are opening an account. And with that, you will need to put in the initial investment in that. Now, there is also another opportunity. Instead of just investing on single stocks or single shares, you also have an opportunity to buy baskets of shares. So later on there will be a talk that will be talking about I'm going to say, and I didn't want to say this exchange stuff, ETF, it's not EFT, ETF, Exchange Traded Fund. So what it does, it's more or less a basket that we put in a number of shares in there. You will find top 40 companies or grouped by the industry that they are in, and you can actually start buying those. And what is important is that I see that you are young like me, so you can start actually investing, and your greatest benefit is that you will have more time to actually see your money grow in that which you have bought. I hope I have given you the answer, and I've encouraged you to go and see those people at the back there. Any more simple questions as a brief? I will come to you.
Morning. How does broker fees work, and what's the general percentages, and how much do you expect to give back from your investment?
So the fees vary from one broker to the other. The best thing that you can do is do a comparison, because we as the exchange do not dictate that. So it is a competitive space where you find that the brokers, some will charge more, some will charge less, and it is based on the transactions that you do. Some of them will charge you over a brokerage fee for the whole year, but you just need to do the comparisons between the different brokers that are available out there. And there's some innovative ways that are coming with some brokers in terms of literally coming in cheaper with some of the offerings that they do. And that the brokers charge without consultation with the exchange. All they do is just bring the trades to us, and then from there those monies go to those companies that actually need. Hope I've answered that.
Hello, thanks for the information. What I'd like to know, we've been approached by a certain financial broker company. There's a company that has approached us. We actually, they are a financial broker company. So they've actually asked us to invest in student accommodation that they want to list on GSA. So we were kind of reluctant because there's no paperwork that is actually telling us the security of actually investing that amount of money. So if you get those kind of people approaching you, how are we actually supposed to view that kind of situation in terms of opportunity?
Great question in terms of finding opportunities, especially when you are approached by companies. Some will be legit, some will not be legit. So my kind of tip would be investigate further. If you do not have the information, you have every right to actually doubt whether it's legit or not. But the other thing is that not missing out on the opportunity, do a bit of research. Number one, is the organization registered in terms of trading with the exchange, or is it registered with the Financial Services Board? If it's registered with the Financial Services Board, the likelihood of actually getting recourse, if there's any scalings done on that, there is a higher chance of actually getting the recourse or the recovery of your money when they register, because they are bound to operate within a set of rules that actually looks after your interest as an investor. So do a bit of research on that in terms of what is this company, what is their track record, do they have a website, do they have an office, do they exist? Another caution is that a lot of us see a lot of adverts that are on Facebook. They are not verified by anybody. I can actually make an ad from this place here, take pictures and claim that I own a Ferrari, and put it on Facebook. I make so much money on trading and so on. Start following me, give me money, I'll give you tips and so on. And there's a lot of people impersonating that, not registered also. So we actually love promises that tells us about how much money we can make in a short space of time. If it sounds too good to be true, investigate further. If you don't find the relevant information in terms of your protection, run. Do morning, guys.